we got an autonomous TMS, which is like AI dispatch. Well, our AI dispatcher is like an autonomous TMS, right? You got autonomous trucks. By doing the integration, the trucks are already integrated. TMS and truck are already integrated. It's just taking that and deepening that relationship, right? So an autonomous TMS integrates with autonomous technology in the truck. And it basically makes the TMS the command center. And most of the jobs for drivers, dispatchers, and fleet managers are on the TMS side anyway. That's where you manage the fleet. So my concept is, and this is recent and it's theory, you got autonomous truck technology that integrates with autonomous TMS software or technology. And that's basically going to give you a full automation package, but it gives the drivers a new job, right? Because basically the trucking company would be autonomous, right? And then you have the concept or idea of what does a futuristic small fleet owner operator look like, right? And you think of a concept of an autonomous trucking company where you have an autonomous TMS that's like the command center that's governing the autonomous trucks, telling them where to go, right? So the dispatch software is communicating to the truck where to go, right? And they're already testing that stuff. I think you can see it with like Uber going over and doing a partnership with the autonomous trucking company. So the autonomous trucks are already exploring TMS software. It's just they're mostly exploring shipper TMS software like Uber Freight, Amazon, and those guys. But that type of TMS isn't going to, that's going to probably come out and be like a done for you type of system. And it doesn't necessarily serve the small business, the small fleet owner operator model. So by having, a TMS that could do that, it gives us the ability to have that conversation. Like, what does this look like? Is this something that we could feasibly do? And then we test it. And who knows? Drivers would probably, in my mind, the way I envision it, the drivers would be at home, right? Drivers wouldn't be on the truck all the time. Drivers would be like more home time. And it would just be like a manual override. Let's just say something happens, then the driver manually overrides it. But the driver would be like supervising the trucks from like a computer or something at home and doing manual overrides. But I just think that the jobs would look different. I'll just say that. But they'll still be there because you have to have someone to govern the TMS, which would be the fleet owner, the fleet manager, the dispatchers, and the drivers. You see what I'm saying? Because they would have to oversee the TMS. And then, of course, the truck technology, the OEMs will probably be governing that. You know what I mean? So,
That that actually makes it. That's probably the most glass half full theory I've heard. I think Aurora themselves and I think the ROI seekers, those people, I think they just want the driver out. Like I think their dream world is driver out. It's 5 companies that are just running all the trucks and that'll be it. But again, Aurora, who I don't think knows, Aurora, who was at Matt's last year, I don't think they know. Well, they're very their marketing team, their employees, they know how to talk. As far as I know Gord spoke with Aurora for quite a bit.
mm,
But I think the reality, because that's the big arguments on TikTok, is like most obviously like 90-95% of the trucking industry is small fleets.
small
And
fleet.
it's impossible to really say that robot trucks are going to take everything. So how would these autonomous trucks actually serve? And I've had a conversation with the gentleman from Torque about this, like who it's going to serve. And the best way he's described it is, this technology is another tool for owner operators, like that. Like that's who they're developing. Torque is developing it for small fleet owners. And I'd say your theory, like it seems futuristic. Like who knows? Could be 10 years. Could be however many years. But it makes sense to where the people running the trucking companies still need to have a CDL, still need to have a commercial driver's license,
Right.
still need to know how to operate the vehicle, will probably have to drive it from time to time, but they're quarterbacking their small fleets from using Trucker Buddy, and then they're also possibly driving trucks, a Freightliner or a whichever. Yeah, a Freightliner that's using Torque's lidar systems, and I think that I'd say in the most perfect world, as technology advances, I think that would be the, because again, I've had Will Cook on this show. It's not a matter of if, but when it comes to this technology. That's what we kind of understand. And I think your theory and what you're trying to accomplish is how we get ahead of the civil unrest that would come. Because if we just snapped our fingers and all of a sudden it was robot trucks tomorrow, city of Laredo would be on fire. They'd shut the bridges down. They'd slash the tires. It'd be over. We think that tariffs were something. If robots came out tomorrow, man, people would be dead within hours of that happening. But seems to be the logical flow of technology and how it can actually integrate with the current business models of how like small fleets and everything operate. It makes total sense.
Absolutely, because we're already the carriers responsible for safety, so that's a duty that we've already signed up for. And to make a point, I want to give this information to drivers and just anyone in the industry, fleet managers, trucking company owners, small business owners. Look up Project Stargate, right? And that's where President Trump has put an agreement in place for this, right? So they've allocated $500 billion in the next 5 years. So it's not going to take as much time as we think, right? The testing that's going on in Texas right now with Aurora, like you mentioned. And by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm happy to see that the OEMs, reached out to him and told him to put the driver back in the seat, right? And keep it. And so that's a good thing, keeping the driver in the seat and not moving too fast with that narrative of no driver needed. Like, well, hold on, But anyway, back to Stargate. This collaboration with OpenAI, which is, like I said, Elon Musk and Sam Altman created that, and it's to help people. And so that's 500 billion. 100 billion is hitting the road today with this AI infrastructure. So it's definitely a big topic, a big conversation. And in 5 years, you're going to see a different industry in 5 years. And in 10 years, it'll be drastically different. It would be a completely revolutionized industry. But it's not something that's tomorrow or too futuristic. It's something that's starting, well, it begins now. It starts now. And so getting off onto a good start with that. I just wanted to point that out and give people information that they can reference so they'll understand, what's going on and where we are right now when it comes to technology and industry and balancing the two.